Vamos a comenzar con nuestra charla informativa. Tenemos acá a Steven, él es un experto, hello, él es un experto en el tema, es el manager de Kyton para pues, todo el tema de driving license, permisos y demás. Entonces, conoce ampliamente este tema. Entonces, le damos la bienvenida a Steven y vamos a compartir la presentación. Somos una agencia de estudios encargada de realizar trámites de estudiantes, visas. Entonces, pues estamos a su disposición. Estos son nuestros datos personales, también a través de Facebook, Instagram y website nos pueden encontrar. Con mucho gusto, si ustedes desean aplicar a su nueva visa, pues para eso estamos. O de pronto desean extender su visa o desean cambiarse de curso, pues nos pueden contactar. Bueno, entonces vamos a iniciar. Los temas que vamos a hablar ahora son por qué necesitamos una visa, una driving license en Victoria, dónde vamos a hacer los tests, qué necesito hacer para tener una licencia, los pasos para obtener una licencia, el appointment fee waiver, que en este momento está for free, o sea, está gratis hasta el 5 de abril. Entonces les vamos a explicar, en el momento pues está gratis, no hay fee en el cargo por VicRoads, y la validación del driving license y algunos tips. Entonces, vamos a empezar con la primera. Why do we need a Victoria driving license here?
Basically, the rules are changing very quickly in regards to overseas driver's licenses. Are not going to be able to drive on the overseas licenses anymore. So you'll have to be, in order to drive on Victorian roads, you'll need to have a Victorian driver's license, which means you need to do the 3 tests, which is a learner test, a hazard test, and a driving test. So overseas licenses won't be, from non-recognized countries, will not be accepted anymore very shortly.
En ese orden de ideas, nosotros conducimos la presentación porque necesitamos la licencia, porque hubo alrededor de un año una ley que salió en el cual decía que teníamos un plazo por hasta 12 meses de cambiar nuestra licencia, que sea de overseas, o sea, de nuestros países. La mayoría somos latinos, entonces esa fue la reglamentación. Ustedes pueden entrar a esta página que está abajo, que es roads.vic.gov.au, donde pueden encontrar Convert Your Overseas License Calculator, y ahí pueden encontrar la fecha en la cual ustedes llegaron y hasta cuándo tienen plazo para cambiar la licencia. Aquí tenemos algunos centros de servicio. Vamos a explicarles, son diferentes en los centros de servicio a los centros de drive test. Entonces aquí mencionamos algunos. Están Alarad.
So you want to read out the...
Yes, you can read it.
Yeah, so the different customer service centres we provide are Ararat, Bairnsdale, Ballarat, Bendigo. They're all country offices. Broadmeadows, Bundoora, Burwood East, Carlton, Cobram, Dandenong, Dramana, Frankston, Geelong, Hamilton, Heatherton, Hoppers Crossing, Hub and Exhibition, which is the office located in the middle of the city, Kyton, which is where I work, Maryborough, Melton, Mildura, Pakenham East, Sunbury, Sunshine, Wodonga. And the primary Melbourne locations, as I said, will be Hub, Exhibition. Carlton is another one that's sort of a primary location, a good one to look at. And probably Broadmeadows and Bundoora. They're all the main sort of city location ones.
Ustedes, chicos, os pueden encontrar las locaciones de igual manera en la página de VicRoads, el que les quede más cerca. En este listado de esta página pueden hacer desde el primer test hasta el drive test, que es el último. Acá les mostramos, digamos, si ustedes ya hicieron el primero y el segundo, pueden encontrar estos License Test Center, donde pueden encontrar, pues, solamente pueden hacer el último test, que son Box Hill, Deep Park,
Mooroolbark, Pakenham, Richmond, which is another central location, but that's only for computer tests, so no drive tests in Richmond, South Morang, Werribee, and the next 4 on this side are just driving test centres: Essendon Fields, Coolaroo, Cranbourne, Kew and Mulgrave, which means they do not do the 2 computer tests, the learners and HPT hazard test, but those ones do drive testing only.
¿Qué necesitamos para tener una licencia de conducción? So, what do you need?
So you want to, so each test, the first test we have is obviously a computer test, the knowledge test, which just goes on road rules, that sort of thing. It's basically 32 questions. You need to get 26 questions or more correct to go through. The best thing I recommend before doing this test is to buy the VicRoads Road to Solo booklet and have a very thorough read, very big read of that, because that explains all the road rules. And without reading that, you're going to find it very difficult to pass the test. So the first test is road rules, and it's best to have a read of the criteria of the book before attempting the test.
Chicos, para los que no alcanzaron a escuchar o de pronto se les dificulta un poquito entenderle a Steven, él dice que como clave principal sería comprar un libro de test donde están como las reglas generales, y de esa manera es mucho más fácil pasar el primer test. Ahora más tarde les explicamos cuáles son los libros. Bueno, esa es la generalidad. Okay.
All right, so the second test is called the Hazard Perception Test, also called HPT. That is also a computer test. That's almost like a video game kind of thing. You're sitting on the computer and you're watching the car go down the street, and you have to click the mouse button to make decisions, such as to make the car turn, to make the car brake, and that sort of thing. This test is a little bit harder to study for, but VicRoads actually has study questions on the website for this one now, which has been introduced in the past 6 months. So you can practice this one as well on the VicRoads website. And this is the second test. You cannot do the drive test until you pass this one as well.
Bueno, en este caso es el segundo test, el de Hazard Perception. Lo que nos dice Steven, que hace aproximadamente 6 meses atrás, VicRoads lo ha puesto a disposición los links para que ustedes puedan practicar a través de la página web. Es como una simulación a través del computador, donde ustedes tienen que teclear o hacer el clic con el mouse y van pasando las respuestas, cada una de las preguntas, perdón.
All right, so the last test is obviously the driving test. That's when you pass the first 2 tests. So with the driving test, the first thing to remember with the drive test is you have to have a valid car for the test. So either you get a driving instructor, a driving school, they have valid cars, or you go to the VicRoads website and you read what the car requires for the test. There's certain things we need for the test, such as, I'll give an example, such as we cannot take a car out if we can't see the speedo from the passenger seat, and also has to have a central handbrake as well. All the criteria is written on our website, so give that a look, and that just explains the sort of car you can bring to the driving test. So that's the first thing you have to sort of determine to make sure the car is suitable. If not, I suggest to look at getting a driving school, a drive instructor. Also, with the drive test goes for 2 stages. There's a first part of the test, which is down the quiet streets. Generally, we're just assessing how well you can go to stage 2, And then the second part of the test, stage 2, is the more serious part of the test, where we judge the big turns, we judge things like signals, and that is generally where you will either pass or fail the test. The test can be done at many different places. It's not the easiest test, but if you prepare, you should be able to handle it okay. There's nothing to be scared of. If you prepare for the test, it should be fine.
Bueno, chicos, lo que al principio nos dice Cien, de pronto para los chicos otra vez que no alcanzan a comprender, es que tengan en cuenta las condiciones del vehículo, que no aceptan si no tiene el freno de mano, que valga la redundancia, al alcance, no el freno de mano que viene al pie al lado del brake, al lado de, o sea, que tú lo puedes manejar con el pie, no sirve, sino el que tú lo puedes sujetar con la mano. También kilometraje que esté bien. Si no está bien esas dos cosas importantes, no lo aceptan. Si pueden revisarlo también a través de la página web, las condiciones para el carro, y si no, pues simplemente pueden alquilar un carro a través de una academia de conducción, ¿sí? O una persona que les esté explicando. Eso sería bueno para que vean las condiciones del carro, si son adecuadas o no. Ante todo sería como eso importante destacar.
Okay. All right, so the cost of each test, the learner test, at the moment it's actually a little bit cheaper than this. It's $19 less, but after the start of April, I think it is, it's going to be going back up to $43.60. The hazard test, $37.80, and the drive test, $64.60. Right now, each test is $19 less than what's listed there, but that is going to change very soon.
What happens if, for example, someone doesn't approve the first test? I am doing the first test, yeah. I pay for $43.6. What happens? I have to pay again?
Yes.
Okay. Every test you have to pay?
Every test you have to pay. If you don't pass a test, every time you book again, you have to just keep paying again.
Okay. The first test, el Learner Permit Test, le recomendamos siempre tenerla traducida la licencia de conducción, y lo pueden hacer gratis a través de translatinghomeaffairs.gov.au/n. Ya comentamos acerca de los valores, aquí están algunos links en los cuales ustedes pueden tomar alguna práctica para hacer el primer test. Si quieren, le pueden tomar una foto a la pantalla para que lo tengan. El segundo test, también, pues una vez que pasen el primero, pueden hacer el segundo test. Aquí está el material de estudio, el link de la práctica, donde ustedes pueden encontrar el material. El tercer test, también que vendría a ser un poco más que casi todo el mundo falla, que es el práctico, que ahorita vamos también a ver como los puntos más en los cuales que las personas puedan ocurrir, ¿no? Entonces, ahorita les hablamos de eso.
All right, so this is just some things, errors that people seem to make on the drive test, which lead to failures. Big one is failing at the stop sign, which you know, the big red stop sign. People, there's two ways you can make mistakes at this sign. The first is to go straight through, not stopping. That will stop the test straight away. The test will be over instantly. The other one is, this one happens, this is more common, this happens more often. When you come to the stop sign, there's a solid white line there. Many people, they just sort of keep rolling through and they don't stop completely. That will give you one big error. And if you get 3 errors like that in the test, you fail. That is called an incomplete stop. And it's probably the most common failing part of the test. It happens a lot. They come to the stop sign, the solid white line, they just sort of stop, but they roll, don't stop completely, they roll through it. That is a very, very common thing to fail on. So when you do the test, make sure to stop completely at the stop sign. or else you will not pass. Another one, this is manual vehicles only. So not many do tests in manual vehicles, but many do. It's basically just stalling the car. That's a pretty simple one to make. Again, this is classed as a critical error. So if you make this mistake, if you make 3 critical errors, you fail test. So stalling the car is another critical error. Do not give way to pedestrians and vehicles. This is another one that you can fail on straight away. If you're not giving way to somebody walking on the road or another car and they have the right of way, VicRoads worker will stop test straight away and you will not pass. Going through red traffic lights, that's pretty easy one, to be honest. Don't do that. That'll be a fail straight away. You can't go 5 kilometers over the speed limit, or you can't go over the speed limit for 5 seconds or more. So let's say the speed limit is 40 kilometers. If you drive 45 kilometers, test is over. And if it's 40 kilometers, if you're driving at 42 kilometers for 5 seconds or more, the test is also over. So there's a couple different ways you can fail with speed. Not using mirrors often enough, that's usually earlier in the test. We would fail somebody for that. That would be on points. Not following instructions. This is a fairly easy one too. It doesn't happen too much, but as the tester, my job would be to give instructions on where to go. And if the person doing the test is not listening to instructions and doesn't listen 3 times, we give them 3 chances, we have to stop the test and bring them back. And last, which is probably the worst one of all, is to have a car accident. It's not good. No, you don't want that. Test over.
Estas nuevamente son nuestra información de nuestra agencia. Si en dado caso ustedes quieren aplicar una nueva visa, pues para eso estamos, ¿no? Entonces, gracias por acompañarnos. Gracias, chicos, a ustedes también. Y pues nos vemos en otra ocasión. Un abrazo y tengan bonita tarde.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul.